Stick around for the completion of the restoration of this Aries Electronics AR-730K digital clock from the early 1970s. So this is it. It's complete. Please enjoy the rest of the video, which will be the journey stitched together for you to enjoy. Well, looky, things are looking better. Well, except for the tens of hours. That tube doesn't light up at all. We'll have to look into that. I've done a little homework. These are the tubes. This is the tens of hours tube. This transistor and this transistor control this tube. That's the filament. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so the filaments are switched on and off. There are no grids in these tubes, so we're actually switching the filaments. Let's check. This transistor I already checked. It checks out good. Let's check this one. It's a 2N3638, and that should be a PNP. I looked that up. PNP. Same transistor over here. It's the big glob top. So PNP. Okay, the neighboring transistor. Okay, look at that. See? Okay, so neighboring transistor. This one over here. Yep, okay. So that confirms it. We have a dead transistor. That's why this drawn out schematic actually helps. But yeah, this guy here is not functioning. So in the interest of trying to keep this clock original, I'm going to try and source the glob top style transistor that's in here. I could whack any PNP one in there, but I like to keep things looking original where I can, and that's one place that I'll try and do that. And then we can get the tens of hours tube up and running. Cool. Temporary hack. Okay, tube lights up. It's got severe ghosting. Oh, my hope is pulling the original transistor out, which I left in, and I tacked a 2N4403 on the bottom side just to see what would happen. We have a working digit, but severe ghosting. You see the one is lit up but brighter, but the other segments are doing what these seconds are doing. So I'll order up. I found some on eBay, the 2N3638, and put the proper transistor in and do a proper repair, and hope that the ghosting settles down. beautiful. Oh, what a pleasure to look at. These things are brilliant. So the ghosting issue went away with the new transistor and the old one removed. Just a quick run through of the clock circuit here. The heart of this clock operated by the MM5311 clock chip, very similar to the 5314 that I always feature on this channel. This particular one is an older one, and we have a 1972 date code in its ceramic package, early style package used. And this has the optional BCD outputs, and interestingly they do create the board so you have the BCD takeoff points in the back here, which are unused. It also does 7 segment output to control the transistors. The 7 segment output lines control these 7 segment drivers, and the digit drivers are on this side, 6 outputs through these capacitors, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, to these transistor switching circuits. These transistor circuits switch the filaments of these tubes, which is not typical of later tube clocks or anything using vacuum fluorescent displays, where switching for multiplexing is typically done with grid switching. These tubes are earlier and do not have the grid screen in them. Capacitors were changed with modern versions to replace the older ones that were starting to show signs of leakage. Couple ceramic disc capacitors were left in place. There's also 2 across the power line, which I am on the fence about changing, but it may deserve changing those, as that's part of the filtering, and they have the ground plane in between both of those. Date codes on the transistors: 1969, and these large nicknamed glob top transistors have a package style. It's a TO106, and the smaller same glob top type transistor, TO105. The big problem when this clock was first fired up was the lack of intensity on the display tubes. It was discovered the original tubes were pretty much worn out. Here we have a sample of what came out. Notice the dark color of the segments. The phosphor coating that generally illuminates has been worn away. As you're seeing these 6 tubes in their natural habitat, these were recently installed. You can see the white phosphor is much more apparent on these tubes. In the restoration, there was a concern about even finding replacement tubes. It was my first impression that I would have to retrofit this with more modern style, plentiful Soviet era tubes, and that's what I was originally thinking. I would go that way. The downside of doing that is we'd have to redesign the circuit to be able to drive those tubes, as they have different ratings. Also, the switching would be different. It'd be switching grids instead of the filaments as done in this circuit. A fellow YouTuber turned me onto an eBay listing, and I was very happy to find 6 new old stock tubes to put in this clock, and here they are installed. Powering this here unit is this transformer of a stout nature. It consists of 2 windings, one 7-volt winding to drive the filaments, and the other winding being a 64-volt center tapped winding. Little paste wax puts on a nice protecting finish. And we have here a potentiometer on the filament circuit, and without instruction, to me it seems you just bring this up until these segments begin to fill in their entirety, and go beyond that. It doesn't seem to gain anything. So we'll bring it back down till they start to dim a little bit, and then bring it back up until the segments fill the best. And that's where we're going to leave that. There are definitely some display characteristics of this clock that make it far from perfect. It is really nice now compared to what we had when we first fired up this clock, but there are inconsistencies in illumination on some digits depending on the combination of other digits that are lit and what have you. Digit 1 seems to have part of itself cut off at times. There is a little bit of ghosting and multiplexing that the camera may pick up, but the naked eye I don't see. But that's par for the course. For something such as this, it just adds to the character. A little walk around. Pretty simple. Just some time setting buttons, slow, fast, and hold. And that's all there is. Thanks for hanging with us on this project. Hope you enjoyed. One note to add on this GEY 4075 Archer Radio Shack sold them under the Archer brand 276-050. That was another source back then to be able to get a tube.